Thanks. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So I would start by saying that I'm a long-term resident of Plymouth Science Park. And I can vouch for everything Marika said. It's really good up there. It's really nice. And my rent's obviously up soon, so that'd be great. So today, I want to give you a quick talk, 3 steps to this thing called value pricing. First of all, just by show of hands, has anybody heard of value pricing before? That's good, that's a few of you. And have any of you actually tried applying value pricing in your business? Excellent, one person. So for those of you who haven't heard of it before, just a quick overview of why you might do value pricing. So if you're like me, or like most service businesses, you may be left bored of employment, and the first thing you do is you hop onto a freelance website and you punch in your rates and your rent or mortgage and all your costs, and you put in a bit of buffer for profit and things like that, and it spits out this hourly rate, and you think, fantastic, that sounds really good. And then you put that hourly rate on your invoices and you start doing work, and off you go. And when I did this was back in 2010, I think I set up, I pretty quickly learned that selling time is actually really, really painful. And that's because there's 3 fundamental problems with selling time. So the first one of those, and probably the biggest one, the root cause of the problems, is that when you're selling time, you're actually starting off every relationship with your customers from a position of conflict. So obviously, if you're selling your time, you get more money the longer the job takes you, so you want to maximise the number of hours on that timesheet, you want to get as much work in as possible so that you can get the maximum income. Your customers obviously want that hours sheet to be as low as possible. They want as few hours on there as possible. 2 reasons: 1, they want to pay you less money; 2, they obviously want the work quicker. Nobody really wants to work being delivered late or in the longer term. So that's the first big problem with time. What we tend to do is we say, okay, that's fair enough, we'll fix the quote, and we estimate how many hours we think something's going to take, and we say, okay, there's a price for the job, and we deliver it. There's a bit of wrangling, and then the customer says, okay, well, we'll settle on that, and that's great. So now you've got an estimated job and a fixed cost. But rather than solving the problem, all we're then doing is actually reversing the dynamic. So now, as the service provider, what you want to do is get the job done as quick as possible to maximise your sort of efficiency, and the customer wants to obviously maximise the value that they're getting out of that quote. So they're going to squeeze every last penny out of you. And what you find happens is that over time you get to that kind of crunch point at 0, and then the discussions get really difficult, and there's talk of extensions and penalties and so on and so forth. So I really hated that. I really hated the kind of ambiguity as well, talking with customers and all that. All you're kind of worried about is your time. So it wasn't great. Second problem with time is that it kind of encourages busy work. It encourages you just to get on with a job just so you can start crunching out those hours. So I think Paul was talking about when a customer comes to you and they say, we want a website, and the first thing you think is, cool, we'll use WordPress or Node.js or whatever the technology of the day is. We'll use a few plugins. How many pages do you want? And you just really get into the job so that you can get started as quick as possible, and again start crunching out those hours. So that's the second problem with time. Of course, the end result of all of that is that if you are, you deliver the website, you've not actually solved the problem. The customer is now in the same situation they were 4 weeks ago, but they're 5 or 10 grand worse off. So you're not solving the problem. Third problem with time, probably the biggest problem from your point of view, if you're doing this, is you're setting an artificial limit on your income. Obviously never a great business strategy, but there's only so many hours in a day, and once you've hit that limit, then that's it, you've run out of income. So you think, okay, I can get past that, I'll work more hours. Well, again, you hit 24/7, nobody really wants to work 24/7, so you've hit a limit there. You think, okay, I'll increase my rate. Always a good business strategy, get more money in. Eventually you'll hit a market limit, so there'll be a market limit on your rate. The kind of natural laws of economics means that over time the market is going to be constantly pressing down on that rate. So the third thing, probably a great business metric, business success thing, is to increase your staff. So then you take on staff, And now, obviously, you can get past your kind of time barrier because you're selling other people's time. But what you're not doing is actually solving the problem, you're just scaling the problem up. So now, rather than just selling your time and maybe your business partner's time, you're now having the same problems, but you're selling 10 times as many people's time. So it really wasn't very great. As I say, the minute I started business, I really didn't like this kind of way of working. I was determined to find a way out of it. It took me a few years. I became a little bit obsessed with kind of reading into pricing strategies and theories and so on and so forth. And then back in around 2013, 2014, I stumbled across this thing called value pricing. Excuse me, I was kind of reading about it and I thought, oh, this sounds really good, this sounds like potential way out. But I couldn't reconcile it with software development. I just couldn't get past this kind of idea of, well, there's got to be some kind of limitation on time. So back in 2016, I was getting more and more frustrated by this, so I made the decision, okay, I'm just going to jump in, go 100% value pricing, and see what happens. So for those of you who haven't heard, just a quick overview of what value pricing is. Really simple example, we're setting the price of a project based on the results that the customer gets out of it. Sounds really simple. One example might be if a customer comes and says, right, we think we're going to get an extra £100,000 a year in sales from this website, and then you set a value price of £10,000 or £20,000 on it, that's a pretty good return. You put 20,000 in and get 100,000 out, that seems fairly good. So if it was that simple, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they? The reason everybody doesn't do it, the reason it's so difficult, is because there's actually two types of value. So you've got what I think of as objective values, which are the things we can put on a spreadsheet, the things we can measure really easily, and the things that you can kind of just apply rate to time, money, sales, leads, feet through the door, widgets sold, that kind of thing. But there's also a second type of value, which is subjective or emotional values, and these are the things we really can't measure, and these are the things that are usually situational to the client. So something might have happened to them that's kind of driven their decision to come to you to ask for a website or whatever it is you do. So that's kind of value pricing in a nutshell. And I've got 3 steps, as I say, that I think are a good way to get started. And this is what I kind of did when I took it on in 2016. So the first thing, if you're a business, I don't know how many of you are service businesses, selling time, or yeah, a few of you guys. So if you're a business and you're selling time at the minute, just increase your time unit. So if you're selling by hours, which I really don't recommend, then bump it up to days. If you're selling by days, sell by weeks. And if you're already selling by weeks, then bump it up to 2 weeks or maybe even monthly fees. And although you're still selling by time, when I did this, I went from kind of days and I started doing it in weeks. What I found was that the conversations that I was having with clients started to change. And all of a sudden, because you're dealing in a bigger unit, I started talking or having conversations that were about the bigger picture of the customer's work and the project and why they wanted to do it. So that's the first thing, really handy tool, really easy to do. You can do it straight away with your next job that comes in. But it's a great way just to start the ball rolling. And it kind of leads on to the second thing, which is to have more conversations with your customers. By conversations, I don't mean sales meetings and sales pitches and those kind of awkward, tense moments where we're negotiating things. I mean actually sitting down with your clients regularly and having ongoing discussions and chat about their business, about their bigger picture. And what you begin to do when you start to have these conversations and dig into them is you start to eke out that subjective value, and you actually find what the causes are behind their problems and why they've come to you in the first place. Third thing is to productize your business. Probably the most difficult thing to do as a service business. But the rewards of doing it are really worthwhile. So productizing really means, when I did it, you take a look at your business as a whole, look at all the different customers, look at all the clients, that you're working with, and start to pick out all the common things that you're doing for them. And then, as part of your conversations, when you're talking with them, start to figure out, well, which of those things do they really value? What's the, where are they seeing value? Where are they getting the most benefit from it? And over time, what you can do is begin to sort of bundle these things up into productized services. And the great thing about that is now you can kind of go to a client who comes to you, and you can say, well, you can take their requirements, you can have a chat with them, and then you can begin to match their requirements against one of your products, productized services. And of course, they're a lot easier to sell because now you've got pre-packaged value, it's got a price on it, and you can actually talk with the customer about which of your services best suits their needs, rather than just reacting to, we need a website, we need a mobile app, and kind of taking it for granted that that's what they need. It actually helps you to figure out what their real problem is. So they're the three main steps. There is a fourth one, which is to over-deliver. So hopefully you can see what I did there. It's a dad joke, but I'm allowed to get away with it. So once you're in a project, and this has been the key for me, and you've identified all the value, you've sold the value to the client, they agree, they accept so much value in it, and they love the project. When you're actually working with them, look for any other way that you can add value, and just tack it in. So the more you start adding value into them, obviously the better your relationship becomes with them, and over time they begin to see you more as a trusted business partner rather than just a supplier vendor. And that's really the key, is getting away from that kind of confrontational relationship that we start with time billing, to actually working towards a common goal. So just as an example, really simple example, I've got one client, and they were really struggling to get sales leads on their website, and all we did, very quick thing, was put live chat on the website, and that happened, and within days they were suddenly getting hundreds of leads from around the world on their website just by having live chat. So obviously a really simple thing to do. Didn't take very long to implement, but great results for the client. They love it, and now they're really happy with it. So yeah, over deliver. I think that's all really quick. I apologise, I've probably spoken a bit quickly. Thank you very much. Hopefully you've got some value, even if it was a very quick talk out of that conversation. I will put slides with expanded notes and things on, because obviously these are very plain slides up on this website. And what I'll also do is put loads of resources and all the reading and podcasts and books and things that I did over the course of a year. And that's it. Thanks very much. Obviously, if you've got any questions, got ages left. Go on then.
Yeah, so you talk about getting to the bottom of your potential customers' problems.
Yep.
In order to be able to give them something that's valuable to you. It's something that we tend to do kind of almost post we've had kind of value cost discussions, because there's a certain amount of time that goes into trying to having those meetings and getting to the bottom. So how do you kind of limit how much time you spend going back to them and communicating with them on multiple occasions to get to it?
Really good question. Yep. I meant to mention that actually on the productized slide. The first thing you should do is productize or sell your proposals, charge for your proposals. So what I did, exactly the same situation. I found I was spending a lot of time, I say wasting, but spending a lot of time dealing with kind of those early stage conversations and trying to figure out where the value was. So I bundled up all the outcomes that were valuable to a client and sold as a package. So when we, in kind of the tech world and software world, I'm sure it's the same in others, when we send a proposal, we're actually leaking thousands of pounds worth of value. So you might send one of these kind of 20, 30 page proposals, you've got wireframes, designs, technical roadmaps, infrastructure plans, all this value is going out, and generally what we do is kind of write it, we send it out into the ether, and we kind of hold up, fingers crossed that we get the job. So what I did was bundle that up into a series of outcomes, put a price on it, and then sell it. So yeah, that's my kind of quick solution to do it. It's also a really easy thing to productize.
Sorry, can you just explain what you mean by bundle it up into a series of outcomes? So rather than, the customer's got some requirements, and rather than saying this is how to fulfill it, how do you get them to pay for your...
So if the customers come and said, we need a website that does X, Y, and Z, there's a little bit of it's almost self-diagnosis there, so you really want to spend some time getting to the root of the problem. So what I did was I began to recognise that this was happening. There's obviously a lot of common things that come out of the proposal, like wireframes, as I said, roadmaps and planning and all this kind of thing. So that is the set of outcomes that you get. This is the price for it, and it's more of a consultation with them to actually figure out where they want to be and make sure that they've not kind of come to you saying, "Oh, we need a website," but actually they don't need a website. Maybe they need a mailing list or something different set up. So it's that exploration phase of which all projects go through. It's just putting a price on it and actually recognising that there's value in that for the client.
So you would pitch something that says this is the price of the basic website, this is what it might look like. But if you also want social media integration and X, Y, Z, then that's
no, I would pitch the discovery, the proposal part as its own product.
Okay.
So you would say, well, the first step to any project is we sit down with you for 2 or 3 days and we actually drill into who's going to use your product, what's the end goal. I think Paul was mentioning about worry about your end users, not what you want. So I actually sell that as a consultation process almost. And then at the end of that, the client walks away with it. Now arguably they could go to another developer and have it built. They might take the wireframes to an investor to get some investment. They might think, and this has happened before, I've had a project, we went through that process, and at the end of it, they might actually, this isn't what we want. There's not a market for it. So it's kind
that
of...
would be, so you're effectively pitching business analysis, product development, before you
get into the bigger stuff. Yeah, it's also a great way to kind of test the waters with a new client as well.
And you still pitch that you're saying kind of day rate as if you were.
I don't pitch as a day rate.
Sorry,
I don't pitch as a day rate.
In your head, when you're working out what the cost would be, if you're going to send a web developer to go and talk to them, is it a similar kind of price, or do you discount it to try and get that?
No, I think personally, there's more value in that exploration phase than there is in actually building the website. So I pitch it quite highly. What I've actually done, one of the maybe the fifth step, is to tier it as well. So there's 3 tiers that you can have. There's kind of a basic consultation, which might be a kind of couple of hours chat and a coffee, through to the 2 or 3 day workshop where you're knocking out 30-page roadmap with wireframes and mock-ups and so on and so forth. So again, that gives the client the option to maybe match their values with what level of investment they want to buy. So if they're kind of just testing the waters and they just want to have a chat, then obviously they can have a much lower investment than kind of full workshop. And certainly when building the thing and then finding out it's the wrong thing at the end. Is that okay? Any others? I'm still on green, so or do you guys just want to get your tea and coffee?
What about when this doesn't work?
Good question. There are 2 exceptions, and this was the slide that was missing. There are 2 exceptions that I've found to value pricing. So when I started, I was really dogmatic about it. I was like, everything is going to be value priced. I'm never going to build my time again. And I found 2 situations where it doesn't work. One is any relationship that is kind of an agency contracting relationship. Because when you're dealing with, say, an agency, so if you're a freelancer dealing with an agency, the value to the agency is impressing your price down as much as possible so they can maximise their profit. So for that, I just advocate a day or week rate, double it, and put that in. The other place that I've found it doesn't work is in the kind of small, what they call maintenance jobs that come in. Kind of, can we change this content? Can we change these buttons? Because there's just not, the value is in how quick you do the job. So with those, I've just productized it. I just bundled it up into a kind of a one-hit product. In my mind, my dirty little secret is that in my mind, I'm thinking it's probably between a couple of hours to a day and a half's work. So I've set a flat price for it, and as time goes on, I just adjust that depending on how I feel it's but yeah, I think if you're dealing with anything that's really small, it's not worth the effort of trying to figure out the value.
How do you bring it in within your company with clients you're already working with?
you take anyone that you were kind of charging an hourly rate, day rate,
Yeah.
the way that you do it, and then move it over to this?
Yeah, I did. What I did was sold it to them that it's better for them because they no longer need to worry about timesheets and things. They're not going to get any surprise bills at the end. And I moved them onto monthly contracts. So now most of my services are actually sold as, if they're not the productized ones, which are one-offs, they're sold as monthly, ongoing. I guess you'd say retainers, but they're not retainers. They're kind of limited by scope.
Do you ever find people doing these monthly retainers, but they're not retainers? So the monthly limited by scope retainers.
Yep.
How often do you find yourself going over the, say if you just say, for example, say, right, that client, that is going to be approximately 10 hours a month. If you've worked out the amount of time that is for this, remember you must do that surely.
I've tried my hardest not to. As I said, I was really dogmatic about it. It's been a learning experience, and obviously there are some months where if you were doing a time billing, the rates aren't as good, but then there are other months when they're really handy. So it's getting a feel for what's in it for the client, and I think that's the most difficult thing, is breaking. Time billing has been around with us for decades. It's pretty much a relic of the industrial age. And I just think that it does take such a mind shift to get into value pricing.
Yeah, no, I understand about the value pricing, but I also understand in my previous roles and things I've done, we would charge monthly, and it wouldn't be, wouldn't say to the client, oh, you're going to get 30 hours on this or whatever. It was it was project based.
Yeah.
But to organise the team's time, because you would say that you spend.
So scheduling things
Yeah,
like that.
and often because you want to deliver, often it can work for and against you. You know, and in terms of growth, and it can be good with the business, but it has to be scalable. So I just wondered whether you came across whether does it work for you?
Yeah, the scheduling has probably been the most awkward thing. But gradually what I've found is it's changed my relationship with clients and what I do for them. And in turn, that's changing the types of clients that I'm actually working with. So now I'm finding that that's becoming less of an issue because I'm dealing less with implementation stuff and we're actually dealing more with the bigger picture of their business. I think, I'm not trying to escape the answer, it's just changed. It's just changed the way I do it, and I'm kind of at the point where if the implementation stuff comes in, if they don't fit within one of these products, then I'd rather direct it somewhere else.
No, I was just wondering how realistically, it sounds great. It does.
Yeah.
And
Oh, trust me, I went 2 years thinking that sounds great.
yeah.
How am I going to get it around my day rate?
No, it's not the day rate. I'm just wondering how often you should go over and above the call of duty. You know.
Well, if you're delivering value, then you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, how do you? I suppose it's the measuring.
Yeah,
So
it's
you and your client are measuring this. Are we in the same hymn sheet in terms of measuring value?
Yeah, it is working. What I've found, I've changed my customers, I've changed how I work with them, and that's probably because I've started worrying more about their businesses than mine, and that's kind of reflected back onto my business. So as they grow, I grow with them. In theory. And you should know that because hopefully I'll be growing on the path. But yeah, that's the key thing. There is one, none of this is obviously all me. I'm just basically taking all the stuff I've learned from the past few years. There's loads of people to read from. One of the best guys, if you're in software, is a chap called Jonathan Stark. I don't think you've heard of him. But he's got a really good method of changing to value pricing, which is because if you're still in that time mentality, you're still worrying about it. He just has a simple formula, which is where you, to make sure I get it right, you just figure out what the difference is between your estimate versus what you think their value is, and take the maximum of the two. I think he says you should multiply the value by 10 times what you think it is. So, yeah. Have a look at that. Jonathan Stark is the guy, and I'll put that on the website as well, so you can go link to it.
So do you say the business is really invaluable?
I'd say it's immeasurably valuable.
No, I'm joking. I'm going to multiply your rev by 10.
I'm not that bad. Does it work? Does it work in my interests as well? This comes back to the smart, happy, and useful thing. Would it make me happy if you multiply
Well, it's not useful.
No. Yeah, I'm really glad you're here now.
This conversation's so long, sinister.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Go
How
on,
do you
sir.
actually explain this to your clients? How do you explain what value pricing is and how to deviate from the traditional models?
Oh, very good one. The feedback has been really good, because when I talk to them about you don't have to worry about surprise bills, that's always a good thing. You don't have to worry about overages and things like that. As I began to do it, what you tend to find is there's loads of other extra value that you can put into your quote. So for example, one of the biggest things is I guarantee it will work. So if you don't think you've received the service that is valuable enough to you, then I'll guarantee it with a refund. Sounds really dangerous, but actually really valuable to the customer, and obviously there's a price attached to that as well. It just builds up the value in it. I think there's 8 different things you can add to your proposal or your pitch to actually sell it to the client, but 7 of them escape me at the moment. It'll be on the website. But yeah, generally the reception's been really good, just in not having to worry about timesheets and things like that. Where I guess sometimes time is valuable. So if you've got a deadline to meet, there's value in delivering that as well. That was quite an awkward one for me to deal with, but I figured out that actually the value is in we can deliver it by that deadline versus it's going to take us 20 hours or whatever. The value is just yes, we'll deliver it. We'll make sure we'll do whatever it takes in order to get it delivered. And again, keep the price up. So eventually what it helps you to do is break through that ceiling rates.
Do you find internally within your business as well, the people who work for you like this model? Do they give them a bit more freedom, or do they...
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because it's back to being just me now. So.
right, okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm guessing you let them model.
Yeah. Although that's likely to change soon. But yeah. So that makes it easier, obviously, for me to do.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it's really true in my experience, in my work that I've done. If you're doing well in any sort of environment where you're selling anything, your bosses, your board, will just say, yeah, they're doing well, brilliant. But what I've seen, and they won't ask you to tell them what you've been doing, really, because of course you're doing well. But what I've seen, when people aren't doing well, they're not reaching their targets, they're not selling, and then say, tell me what hours have you been doing? They break it down. Send me your timesheets. Not me, but I've seen this happen. And it's interesting with Science Park's PR and marketing, which we outsource. The PR, I'm not interested in how many hours they work or when they work or who they meet or what they do. I'm interested in the output at the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it absolutely works for us.
Yeah. It's I've got a friend who's a locksmith, and he was wondering what to charge. And obviously, if you're locked out in the middle of the night and it's pouring down with rain, then you're going to pay pretty much anything. So you don't care. All you want in there is quick, and he wanted to break the door open and not damage your, not too much damage. I don't know if locksmithing works. But yeah, if you apply it in that really basic model, you think, okay, what's the value of getting into my house tonight safely? He turns up, he's uniformed, he's in a van, he's the right guy kind of thing. There's a lot of value in that.
Sorry, I'm not going to have a Chris.
Oh, good.
I think we all agree that outcomes, particularly value of the outcome, it's repeat business, it's a no-brainer. What I'm struggling with is the IT sector is really huge, and all the products we provide are really huge, whether it's website, solutions architecture, whatever it is. But it seems to me maybe it's easier to do what you're saying when it's something like a website development or graphic design or whatever, rather than the sort of software engineering, the softer side we kind of do. So how would we sort of apply that to our
So you're
wider
talking about internal
business?
customers? Or
Sorry?
do you mean internally?
I don't know. When I'm thinking of our business, when we obviously providing solutions architecture, software engineering to the defence sector, it's very hard to sort of visualise how we would do it using more techniques, if that makes any sense. Whereas if it was just, not just, that's one word, so I'm a bit nervous, but if it providing an outcome like a website which you can see,
Yeah.
it's definitely something you can provide to lots of people, obviously give them individual solutions. I'm trying to work out how you get away from that hourly rate when it's not.
Yeah, I
It's
must
not making
admit,
much
when you're
sense.
selling to the defence sector, for example, I'm not sure.
No, what
It's a bit out of my-
I'm
out of
talking
my-
wider. I guess I'm trying to work out how I'm not making much sense. Sorry, when it's not something that you can see like a website. When it, I guess we. Yeah, I'm not
It's
making much
it's
sense.
concentrating not on the. I should have clarified when you're pricing it. You're pricing it on the results, not the deliverables.
Okay.
I'm going to use websites because that's a really easy thing for me to do. But you're not saying, well, we're going to deliver 30 pages and it's going to have a contact form and it's going to have all these wonderful features. Again, that's not actually solving the client's problem. The client's problem might be we're getting nobody through our door, or it could be something as subjective as, well, I've seen that my nearest competitor's got a mobile app, so I think I need a mobile app now. So there's kind of value in that, just matching it. So it's looking past what you're delivering to actually what the results of that are.
I just have something to add to that. So I sell something which is very, very different. I sell a motivational speaker, which is completely different to anything techie. But motivational speakers get paid a lot of money. Sometimes people will say to me, well, if she speaks for 40 minutes rather than an hour, is that cheaper? And the answer is no. Actually speaking for a shorter amount of time is often harder. And so I have to explain to them why it's not cheaper, even though they're getting less time. And I find that the cards that really work is when I can build credibility. So I say, it's not about 20 minutes of speaking, it's this client said that the result was this, and then shove in a testimonial, and this client said the result was this, shove in a testimonial, and we've got 8 repeat bookings from IBM. So I'm not giving them, hard packaged, I'm going to make you 2 million, your revenue is going to go up 2 million if you have this speaker at your sales conference. But by establishing our credibility, they start understanding that it's not money for time, it's money for
Value.
yeah. So money for softer results. It might completely not apply because it's such a different product, but that's something I come up against.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really easy when let's say it's an objective value that you just bang in the spreadsheet. You say, well, we're going to make £50,000 extra. Let's do it. It's really easy. But like you say, what value do you get in being able to speak properly? I could do with some training. So yeah, it's interesting, but it does require a huge kind of change. And I'm still going through it. I'm by no means saying, I've done everything for this. I still seriously undervalue stuff. And really think, why have I done that? They're getting so much out of it. So it's a learning experience. Value pricing is much more of an art than science.